demographic, and then the game's getting more popular, and then you start playing it, it's like, oh no, here comes skill-based matchmaking. Now you've made me sit in the bathtub with a razor blade. What is going on, people? So, what we're talking about in this video, what made old school sniping so good? I'm in a few different Discord chats, and most of the people in there tend to play the older games, but not like the newish older games, just like the older games. So it made me feel like what made it so appealing back then. And I feel like, first of all, I feel like the pacing of the game is just faster. The ADS, the reload time, I mean, it's more of a problem for red gunners, which is why I can understand why they've kind of slowed that down now. But, even in terms of setup, you didn't have to compromise back then as much. I mean, if you wanted speed, you just have less ammo. Or if you wanted more ammo, you'd have more bullet penetration, and, your ADS would just be slower. Although it's not as slow as it is now, do you know what I mean? It's just less choice, and you didn't have to give up as much. I feel like now, you can almost get disorientated by the amount of choice you have. Like, you could spend so much time doing so many different setups. I think one of the things I love the most about the older games is the mistakes that the developers actually made. You had the ACOG scope in COD 4, which gave you a reason to use it. Now, the reason to use it was the damage was more on that scope than with the regular scope. You know what I mean? Now, I feel like people use different scopes now for variation and to try it out, but there's no real reason to keep using it. Whereas back then, to put the ACOG scope on, you had a reason because you just didn't want to get as many hit markers. Not that they were bad, but that kind of just, guaranteed a kill basically. And it made it, I don't know, more satisfying to watch. Like, I really liked montages when people were using the ACOG scope. I feel like the majority of montages in that game in particular were with the ACOG scope. I also liked how you could skip the reload animation and scoping animations back then. Black scoping, if you don't know what that is, it's quick scoping when you're not all the way in, whether the developers did it by accident or not, it added to the game. Like, it's something I personally loved, and, although it was quicker in terms of us as snipers, I still think it added a level of skill, because you were more active in what you were doing, skipping the reloads, skipping the animations, and like sprinting out of them, knowing what you were doing. You can still do it now, but it's not as effective as it was back then, I feel like. Bounces as well. Oh my god, bounces on the maps. It would be cool if they added bounces back, and maybe on purpose. I mean, there's bounces now, but do you know what I mean? The way they've put the bounces, like, they're not as high of bounces, and they're just kind of odd. Like, you've got, on Cold War, you've got the bounce on Miami, on the diving board at the back of the map. And who's really going to go to the back of the map to kind of play on the diving board, you know what I mean? It's not somewhere you'd bounce off and, like, kind of get a montage kill. It'd kind of be like where the kid in the wheelchair, is fucking playing the game with soup on his lap. That kind of dude. These newer games, I feel like they design it for newer players or people contemplating suicide, because, you've got like a wider reach, a bigger demographic, and then the game's getting more popular, and then you start playing it, it's like, oh no, here comes skill-based matchmaking. Now you've made me sit in the bathtub with a razor blade. And if I wasn't thinking of doing it before, I'm gonna do it now for sure. How do we always get off topic, I mean me. Actually, no, we're all in this together. And, although I do like the sniping in Cold War, because I do, the magic just isn't the same, Back then the maps were great, and there is an argument for, would it be as good with those maps and, this game, these guns, the way the engine is run, and it's like, maybe not, but that's not the case. The maps aren't the same, and they just seem to be recycling maps. I mean, it's cool. When, they first brought back Raiden Express, it was cool, but, like, now you're just taking the piss. There's too much recycling, in my opinion. Just make some good maps, I suppose. There's just too much recycling. And I don't know where they brought that Rush map back from, but it's garbage. That needs to be put away. What about anyone else? Where was the magic in the sniping in the older games, do you think? Let me know. And if you fuck with the content, leave me a like in a bit.